I find it very hard to write about Wanderstop. Whenever I sit down to write seriously about any game, I have this weird tendency to let the game's central conflict kind of become my own conflict. As though through osmosis, the problems of the protagonist become my own emotional problems. I mean, let's get real, I have no shortage of emotional problems. And as such, even the slightest thing can just summon one to the surface. And Wanderstop is about burnout, so it's been hard to sit down and write basically anything. And it's a lot like how Wanderstop starts. Alta, our main character, is a fighter, fresh off her first loss, and she decides the only solution is to go find a new master to train her. But as she's running to find her next trainer, because I guess running will get her there faster, it's total overachiever behavior, she becomes so exhausted that she can't pick up her sword anymore. She resolves to leave it behind and continue on, but shortly after, she passes out altogether. When she wakes up, she's on a bench, sitting next to a large, smiling man in a grove by a charming little hut. This is Boro, and this is his tea shop. Still unable to pick up her sword, Alta reluctantly agrees to help out around the tea shop. It's better than sitting around doing nothing. And I feel like I know exactly what Alta is going through. Oh boy, do I know. I knew it the moment I reinstalled Animal Crossing instead of sitting down to write this script. This is burnout. You might say, I don't know, Katie, playing Animal Crossing? That kind of just sounds like procrastination. Maybe you're just lazy? Well, first of all, how dare you? That's super mean. But second, that doesn't totally make sense. I love making videos. Sure, it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard thanks to my emotional problems, but it's worth it. I come out the other side having worked through a bunch of stuff, and I made something beautiful in the process. Some people do a Tough Mudder, and I do this. The thing about burnout is that you don't see it coming. It can seem to happen all of a sudden. All at once, you're unable to go on. And that's likely because you were ignoring the signs on purpose. Prior to that point, your exhaustion is just another barrier to success. And you're a fighter. You've overcome your share of challenges before. It's just another hurdle to leap over, another mountain to be climbed with grit and perseverance. But you can't just climb mountains forever. Your grip will eventually give out. That advice you've always lived by, to Chumbawamba up again, in that moment, it's the worst thing you could do. You need time to heal. There's no going around, over, or through it. You need to stop and wait for it to cross the street. Alta happens to stop at Boro's tea shop, and she has to wait because try as she might, she's unable to pick up her sword. So while she's waiting, Alta and you, the player, spend time doing chores, making tea, and gardening, which is a lot like farming. Oh no, this is a cozy game, isn't it? Damn it, they got me again! Fans of the channel know I have thoughts on cozy games, so I won't repeat myself. But I think we can all agree that the appeal of cozy games is in their contrast to daily life. Are you sad? Tired? Are you not where you want to be in life? Do you lack control over your circumstances? Now try cozy games. Allow your awareness of reality to dissolve and be replaced with a picturesque low-stakes fantasy of managing a shop, planting a farm, or even something as mundane as delivering mail. All in a tightly managed experience designed to save you from the awful parts like taxes, blisters, or mail fraud. And despite my sarcastic tone, I'm actually not here to criticize any of these games. Except for maybe that mail game.
Hey, you leave Lake alone. You leave it alone. That's a good... It's a game.
Sort of. I will say that I think the market is a little oversaturated, so I'll be honest. When I saw Wanderstop and this art style in particular, I was a little reticent. I didn't really expect to get a novel or especially thoughtful experience. But playing the game forced me to confront that bias and really engage with why cozy games have been so popular. What are the shared experiences that have drawn so many people to go cozy? And it turns out that shared experience is burnout. When your exhaustion causes you to stumble, you are forcefully confronted with your own limitations. And when you suddenly become aware of those limitations towering over you, it's only natural to sink into despair. But you are not alone. Burnout is everywhere. According to this study done by Indeed, if you have a job, there's a 50-50 chance that you're experiencing burnout right now. And if you aren't currently employed and instead find yourself dealing with uncertainty about the future and how you'll make rent this month, well, why would things be any different? And if you're a student, good luck! Coping with burnout by turning inwards towards these fantasy worlds, it makes a whole lot of sense. Why sink into exhaustion and despair when you could be making tea? And that's reductive because the allure of a cozy game is more than just the literal fantasy of running a tea shop. It's a fantasy that it would be easy to run a tea shop. Cozy games are rarely punishing in their difficulty. In fact, Wanderstop explicitly emphasizes again and again that this isn't intended to be a difficult experience. Darling Best Boy Boro tells you point blank, if you get stuck, there is a literal book of answers you can peek at, and that's nothing to be ashamed of.
Personally, Boro prefers not using the book. To solve our customers' requests is a great delight, but from time to time, even I am indulging myself in a good old-fashioned spoiler. Yes, indeed.
Do you have any idea how confident Boro has to be to share that freely with Alta? Damn, Boro's so cool. Anywho, in Cozy Land, it's not about the difficulty of the task, it's about quantity of tasks. Gardening, sweeping, weeding, decorating, returning lost packages, these games demonstrate that easy is not the same thing as boring. For example, in Animal Crossing, every new morning while Isabelle makes her announcement, I'm making a little mental to-do list for myself. Find the fossils, find the golden spot, plant a bell tree, get the recipe in a bottle, chat with my villagers, etc., 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 etc. And I think this kind of to-do list making is central to the way that cozy games help us manage burnout. Because we're not so different from Alta when she tells Boro,
if I'm not making progress on something, I'm going to freak out.
This is such a call-out. On its face, it doesn't make any sense. Why am I avoiding writing by doing imaginary chores? Well, because I'm addicted to making progress. And if we're too tired to make progress on our critical path quest, whether it's school or work or whatever, we have to feed our addiction somehow, and that's what these imaginary chores provide for us. So using a cozy game to explore the theme of burnout is actually pretty meta, which is honestly so on brand for video game auteur Davey Wreden. You know, one of the two guys behind the Stanley Parable. Vibe-wise, Wanderstop seems like a huge departure from the Stanley Parable. But it's very obvious to me that these two games are siblings. It's most apparent in the writing. An excerpt from the in-game book series Dick Warhard reads,
As he stepped out of the limo, the sun shone brightly into his eyes. Dirk Warhard hated the sun more than he hated anything in the world. He had been told many times to stop looking directly into the sun, but to turn his back on an enemy was cowardice he could never forgive. Pulsing with rage from the Dirk Warhard undercover method, Dirk Warhard pulled a pistol from his tuxedo jacket and fired 10 rounds directly into the heart of the sun. Case closed. Hey, this guy's pretty cool. This is cool. I like this, Katie.
To me, this feels so much like the same absurdist observational humor that the Stanley Parable was known for.
A 1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically, but a 1? That's not even helpful. What am I supposed to do with that?
But it's not just the writing. I also see a parallel in themes here. The Stanley Parable was a huge hit because it was one of the first popular indie games to dabble in meta storytelling. The humor often comes out of the tension between character and player. The conceit that Stanley is a real guy who will live and die in this world twists itself into absurdity in order to accommodate the whims of a player, who is constantly asking, what happens if I do this?
Oh, Stanley.
The player being playful makes the narrator's job to tell us a story increasingly difficult. In the Stanley Parable, play and narrative are intentionally pitted against each other, and it's not ludonarrative dissonance because the game knows it's a game.
Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room.
On the other hand, while Wanderstop refuses to be overtly meta in the same way Stanley was, I would argue it still knows that it's a game in the same exact way. But instead of pitting narrative and play against each other, Wanderstop knows that the reason you sat down to play this game is the same reason that Alta ended up here in the Grove. The game assumes its player is burnt out. It knows you're on the other side of the screen, hurting. Certain lines feel subtly directed past Alta to the player. For example, Boro tells Alta that she can leave the shop whenever she wants. She doesn't have to stay here. She can return back through the log to the forest to continue her quest. I couldn't help but feel like this was the game reminding me that I, too, can leave whenever I want. Instead of a log, it's a quit menu. And I'm back to my own life, just like that. Back on my own critical path towards my own mission objectives. Presented like this, it's more than Nintendo reminding you to get up and take a break from playing. It makes me feel like my time in the game is a sacred space, metaphysically removed and therefore safe from whatever troubles I'm avoiding. It's this invitation towards self-awareness that sets Wanderstop apart from other cozy games. While your Animal Crossings invite you to stop, they don't necessarily invite you to wander in the same way. Instead, they invite you to make those to-do lists with a near-endless font of tasks for you to complete. And yes, Wanderstop has that same task abundance, but the way in which each task is introduced feels very intentional. They're not designed for to-do list making, but instead to be considered individually. Each action begs to be prefaced with the question, but will that bring me joy? For example, Boro specifically calls out, despite a designated garden area, we don't need to limit ourselves to growing in a particular pattern or place. He tells us we can grow anything anywhere, as much or as little as we want. By teaching us to farm in a particular spot and then expanding our possibility space after, the game injects a sense of freedom and prompts us to consider, what garden do you want to build, given all these possibilities, without overwhelming us by first teaching us the mechanics in a very controlled environment. And if you think the point of the game was to serve customers tea, think again. Customers can show up and not order any tea at all. In fact, often they don't. And if they do, you don't have to serve them with anything approaching urgency. Sure, you can have some tea, right after I move everything in the shop one spot to the left. Do 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 do. The game won't even let you feel guilty for wasting tea. If you brew too big a pot, and the pot is quite big, any excess will just water this big tree, yielding beautiful flowers that change color every chapter. Tasks like weeding, sweeping up, returning packages, everything only has a minor reward associated.
None of these seem like measurable objectives,
says a confused Alta. The game design itself is resistant to to-do listery. I sweep up not because I've been asked, but because I take pride in how the shop looks. When I complete a task, I kind of have the sense that the game is like, oh cool, thanks, and then fumbles around in its pockets for some kind of prize. A teddy bear, a soup can, a science project volcano. They're all called trinkets, just little objects that you can use to decorate your shop. And like everything else, you decorate for you. There's no collect all trinkets achievement to hunt for. There's no Happy Home Academy or nosy villagers slinging opinions on your decoration style, like Merengue, who would not shut up about how I turned a wardrobe's drawers to face the wall, because I felt it would look more like a kitchen counter that way, because Animal Crossing's kitchen counter options are sorely lacking, even though there are a million appliances. But no, Merengue had to call me out on it over and over and over, and Wanderstop regards its objectives with very little importance because, again, it knows it's a video game. Even going so far as to subvert the ways that gamers typically seek out that sense.
Hi, I'm Charlie from YouTube channel Charlie and Luke, and I was originally going to write my own script on Wanderstop, but then I realized that what I had wasn't really enough for a full video, and so I said to Katie, hey, can I maybe just borrow some room in your video? And she said, okay, go nuts, but now I've spilled peanuts everywhere and like a whole can of Diet Coke, so I'm just going to do my part and leave before she notices. As Katie was saying, Wanderstop rewards the player in a very passive and overall really inconsequential way, which even extends into the game's achievements. I think given how ludicrous and arbitrary some of the achievements were in the Stanley Parable, I was definitely expecting something kind of bizarre when it came to Wanderstops, and yeah, they're pretty strange. As with most games, you'll inevitably unlock your first achievement, probably by accident, and when you do, it will give you the incredibly clear and not at all cryptic description of her gift. They used her gift against her. Each of the game's achievements follow similarly cryptic naming conventions that, at first glance, seem to be pointing towards some sort of bigger mystery or narrative metaphor that the player can uncover. Maybe a reflection of Alta's journey in the game, but as more and more of these unlock, you'll start to notice that, as is typical of Davey Wreden's writing, some of these things are pretty nonsensical and it's hard to really tie them to anything in the game. Achievements like so much time, what is needed, and unyielding yes can all be related back to the themes of burnout in some way, whether they're trying to dissuade the player from it or not. But then there's achievements like Satisfactory, which are much more abstract. You can maybe argue that this one is about the grind never quite being enough, or Alta's dad losing his job, but both of those feel like really loose explanations to me. And again, most of the game's achievements follow this pattern of being vaguely related to the game's themes, but just contradicting enough that you can't quite put them into a cohesive whole. And I think that's very much on purpose, in order to stop you from gaining something meaningful from unlocking the achievements. Otherwise, that would be entirely at odds with the game's themes, that you should only really be playing for your own satisfaction, not to unlock stuff. But alright, what if you're an anxious completionist like me who gets a sweet hit of dopamine every time you get to cross a task off your list, regardless of what the reward is? Well, Wanderstop thought of that too, because around achievement number 4 or 5, you might start to realize that you have no clue how you unlocked any of these things. And after doing a couple of playthroughs myself and looking into other players' experiences, I feel we can pretty safely conclude that these achievements pop at complete random. There are no requirements needed, no set time for them to show up. You just play the game and eventually you'll get them all, but you won't know when and you have no control over how. So just take your damn time, you adrenaline chasing completionist, and enjoy the tea. Alright, for real though, I gotta get out of here, but if you did enjoy listening to me rant about cozy games, me and my buddy Luke did a video on Stardew Valley and the themes of escapism that you might get a kick out of if you enjoyed this one, so hopefully see you there. Bye!
Oh, hey, thanks, Charlie. And yes, absolutely go check out Charlie and Luke's channel. If you like my nonsense, then they are right up your alley. As Charlie was saying, it's just that simple, right? We all just need a little something to fill the time. A game that doesn't ask too much, just engaging enough to trick you into resting. And by the time credits roll, your burnout is cured, right? Right? Soon enough, Alta's running around the grove, going up and down ladders, hoisting her weight with ease. She doesn't seem exhausted anymore, but then she still can't pick up her sword. One patron, an old fan of Alta's fighting, insists she just needs one low-stakes sparring match to get back up on that horse and start fighting again. That's not how it goes. Each customer that comes to the shop shares their story with Alta, sometimes asking for tea, sometimes asking for help, sometimes just a place to sit for a minute. Gerald is a knight who ignores his obviously deteriorating cursed foot as he blindly pursues becoming a knight. Something that he's definitely not just doing to impress his teenage son. We watch him attempt to uncurse himself by doing 1,000 sit-ups, something that will obviously not work because, that's never broken a witch's curse. You gotta kiss a frog or something, Gerald. As we watch him mechanically perform each sit-up, we're reminded of Alta's insistence that she has to keep going in the forest. Keep running, keep pushing, even when that was obviously hurting her. Each customer is their own parable, prompting us to reflect on our relationship to our goals. These characters find themselves in the grove because they are struggling to answer some question for themselves. Sure, most of them have some quest, goal, or vocation that they're drawn to, but something's gotten in the way. You end up in the grove because you need to answer some questions for yourself. What exactly are you running towards? Why did you start running? That thing you're running towards, is it real? Is it possible you're actually running away from something? At what cost will you continue to run? What would it feel like to stop running? You've made it to Wanderstop. Congratulations. You've stopped running. But why? Burnout is an answer, but by no means is it a complete answer. And no one here has that complete answer for you. Alta asks Boro what's wrong with her, and he honestly responds that he doesn't know. It's up to Alta to understand herself, and that's a terrifying prospect. I'm going to get into a few spoilers at this point, so if you want to experience the big plot points for yourself, go to the timestamp on the screen here to skip to a spoiler-free conclusion. I'll give you a moment to make your own decision now. Oh, Catburger. Hey, bud.
Oh, hey.
Where are you off to?
Oh, me, I'm just off to my weekly lawn darts tournament.
Lawn darts?
Me and several other influential people in the community get together every week and we play lawn darts, and the winner pays for next year's lawn darts. So it's a virtuous cycle and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
The world's most dangerous game.
How much are lawn darts?
It's enough that, it takes several people in the community to get together. And you know what they say, to lawn dart takes a village.
I do think that I've heard that before, yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever won?
Well, thankfully.
Okay. Sort of a uncertain answer. Feels like an easy question.
The thing about winning is that Katie, you gotta understand, it's a little overrated, winning.
Okay, so that's a no.
Well, is it a no? I'm asking a lot of questions here. Katie, have you played lawn darts?
Classic lawn darts.
I've never played lawn darts. Can I join?
Well, it's sort of an inner circle TM sort of thing.
I'm influential.
You're influential, definitely. It's just in the community, maybe not.
Is this the lawn dart community or is it a different community?
I'm sort of not at liberty to say, but what I guess I would say is if people just want to comment,
yeah, Katie
is definitely influential in the community. You have to capitalize the T and the C. If you don't do that, it doesn't count. But if you comment that and there's enough of them, then
please, guys, I really want to get into the lawn dart tournament.
We might be able to get into.
It's all I care about now.
Yeah, this is possible.
Booyah!
But Katie, be aware. And this has come up for me for reasons I'm not at liberty to discuss.
Okay.
You do have to pay for next year's lawn darts.
I'm
if
ready.
You win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lawn darts, not very expensive.
Huh. Well, maybe I was misinformed.
I mean, you've never won, so you've never needed to buy.
Well, Katie, winning is a binary system I don't really subscribe to.
Do you win every year and you're just getting out of paying for the lawn darts?
If you never sign the check saying that you won, that's right, there's a small check.
You then use to pay for the
Katie,
lawn
it's not
dart?
for any real money. It's like, have you ever had, it's like for 2 or 3 cents. And what they do with that is that they prove that you own the bank account that you actually own.
Sure.
So you get a 2 or 3 cent check.
Ka-ching!
Is anyone else in the community, capital T, capital C?
Well,
Other than me, fingers crossed.
I mean, I think if we get enough comments, we can really build out that community. It's not about what's happening now. It's about the future.
Okay.
What is going on with the viewers? Why are they still here? Haven't they decided whether or not they're going to keep watching this part? Because it does go on for 10 more minutes with just me. And eventually I nudge Katie out of the frame.
This is just your video now.
Yeah, this is if you want to be spoiled.
Retrospective on lawn darts now.
Lawn darts. First created in 1923 as a way to keep Franklin Roosevelt interested in his children.
You have to decide whether or not to go to the spoiler.
Katie, why haven't they decided yet? I don't understand.
Well, I think we should probably cut them a break because we talk about being spoiled on a story like it's a binary, but it happens in degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, think of it like this. If we were watching Citizen Kane.
Whoa, Katie. I haven't seen Citizen Kane. I will not be spoiled. Please do not spoil me on Citizen Kane.
You've had 84 years.
Katie, I'm going to talk about it next week on a podcast, so I will definitely have watched it by then, I'm sure.
You have been trying to schedule this podcast for 84 years, which is legitimately impressive because podcasts are like a 2000s thing.
Hey, thank you. It is impressive.
It is. I'm really impressed by you.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Aren't you going to be late for that lawn dart?
Oh, no, my lawn darts!
501, baby!
Continuing on. It's a tempting fantasy to imagine that someone else might be able to tell you what to do next, especially in the face of failure. You might even start to believe that you need that fantasy more than your own soul. When Alta was defeated in combat, she decided that she needed a new master, someone to train her and tell her how to keep hurtling herself forwards, someone to teach her how to be undefeated forever. When she meets Master Winters, she finds an old woman. Master Winters receives Alta kindly and listens to her story, but when Alta asks for training, Master Winters sighs heavily. She says she's too old, she can't train anymore, and Alta is immediately devastated. Seeing this, Master Winters offers what she can. She says, "Please, come stay with me for a while. We can get to know each other, talk about our experiences." Whether Alta heard this offer or not, I can't say. At what point she stopped listening and started seeing red isn't exactly clear. All we know is that this rejection enraged Alta to such a degree, she decided to unsheath her sword and attack Master Winters. And of course Master Winters threw her out, told her never to return. It's immediately after this encounter that the game begins. Alta's decision to attack Master Winters was so awful, so unforgivable, that she had to forget it ever happened. She blocks out the memory, and the effort takes every last bit of her energy, leaving her collapsed in an exhausted heap in the forest, where Boro finds her. And the game we've been playing begins. When this memory finally resurfaces about halfway into the game, Alta is horrified and confused. She's unable to understand why she'd attack a woman she so respected, unable to see where her anger comes from. Though to me, the source seems clear. Alta has a single-minded belief that the only response to defeat is more training, and being denied that training can only be met by anger and even violence. At that point in her journey, Alta had fallen so deeply into the grind set that she completely lost sight of her own humanity. She knows that her goal, to be undefeated forever, doesn't make any damn sense. She shyly admits it when Boro teases her. It's a goal you make when you don't realize you're going to die someday. It's a goal you make when you're a child. In the penultimate chapter of Wanderstop, Alta meets a child. Alone, no parents. She's a total brat. She draws on the walls, she's rude to Alta, and she insists her name is Monster. Though it's not too long before this little monster decides that Alta, being a fighter, is the coolest thing in the world, and that she too wants to become a fighter. She begs Alta for lessons, but Alta, knowing she can't pick up her sword, has to refuse. But the complexities of situations like Alta's are lost on little monsters. Feeling rejected, she runs into the woods, and Alta, fearing for this little girl's safety, finds herself for the first time in a long time picking up her sword. Here, only in the face of a cause great enough, protecting someone vulnerable who needs it, is Alta able to reclaim her evocation. She sees in herself a little monster, and yearns to see her free from the same chains that Alta clapped on her own wrists. It's not that making crazy, unrealistic goals when you're young is bad. On the contrary, kids should dream about what they can do. Having that kind of space to imagine what you will be is sacred. And it's similarly good to hurl yourself into those goals with your whole heart. These are all good things. That's what makes burnout so maddening, because you didn't do anything wrong. You just found your limit, and accepting that's brutal. Through Alta's voice in her head, represented by a golden version of herself, and through Monster's little voice of her own, the game offers us one small piece of advice. Maybe, sometimes, listen to yourself. That little voice inside you that says, "I could really use a break," isn't a whiner or a complainer. Those are your needs talking, and they will inevitably come into conflict with your goals. You can't ignore them forever. The consequences of never listening to that voice are on full display in Wanderstop. It's not uncommon to succumb to burnout after a failure, a hurdle that seemed small but tripped you up anyway, likely because you were already so tired. It's not hard to take that failure as a judgment. It'll feel like you've lost your way, and that's when you're most vulnerable to your creeping exhaustion. And once you've collapsed, you have no other recourse but to finally stop and rest. And that enforced rest, as frustrating as it may feel, is a gift. Your body stops to give your mind an opportunity to wander. It's time to reflect. What are you running towards? Why did you start running? Is that enough of a reason to keep running? It's natural, maybe even good, to feel completely lost as you begin to wander through these questions. But when we feel lost, we are at our most vulnerable. In an effort to escape the discomfort of feeling lost, you might seek out someone who can tell you where to go or what to do. Your desperation to be told what to do might even hurt someone. And confronted with your own mistakes, in hurting someone you would never want to hurt, you'd be forgiven for falling even deeper into that despair. Just because you've lost your reason to keep running does not mean all hope is lost. It only means it's time to find a new reason. There's no right answers here, and no one can tell you what to do. And the path to that new reason will almost definitely be a winding one. But rest assured, those answers do exist. They're just waiting to emerge from within you. After meeting a lot of different people with a lot of different challenges and approaches to life, Alta finds a reason to start running again when she finds something worth protecting. It's an expression of love. If you find yourself watching this exhausted, uncertain how to keep going, and unconvinced you'll ever find a reason to get up off the ground again, the answer is probably in love. And I am not talking about the unhelpfully vague greatest force in the universe for reasons type of love, but in your specific brand of love. Realizing what you love and deciding how exactly and specifically you want to express that love. There are an overwhelming number of options, which is how we get to that unhelpfully vague greatest force in the universe for reasons type of love. And I admit, it's pretty frustrating that the answer doesn't come easier. For me, in this exact moment, love takes the form of delivering this message into a microphone and imagining that someone will hear it and it'll help them. Maybe it's you. And maybe for you, that love looks like trying a new recipe for cookies and sharing it with your neighbors and your coworkers or your fellow students. Maybe it's drawing fan art for a show or a game that you love, just to celebrate it with other people. Maybe it's studying to become a scientist so that you can work towards a vaccine or cancer treatment. Maybe it's learning as much as you can about the things that interest you. These are all expressions of love. I admit my advice could come across as pretty frustrating. I'm telling you to do your own research, but you are the subject of research. Unfortunately, I can't do much better than that. There are no shortage of people in this world that will try to tell you that your passion, your expression of love, is a waste of time or even immoral. Still, other charlatans will insist that the only way to find those answers you're looking for is to buy their course or their book or their supplement. And f*** all those guys. No matter what anyone tries to tell you, this is your life. These are your decisions. The answers are inside you and no one else. At the end of your life, when you blink for the last time, despite your many inevitable regrets and mistakes, you need to find a way to be proud of the life you're leaving behind. You can't buy that pride. You have to earn it. And it's both a responsibility and a gift not to be wasted. There's this classic joke I always hated. A man goes to the doctor and he says, "Doctor, it hurts when I do this." And the doctor says, "Well, don't do that." I can't stand this joke because it is so unsatisfying. It's so uncurious. You ask your doctor for help and they give you the brush off. I think the joke ignores what the man actually wants. Understanding. Why can't he do this? What physical limitation is he butting up against? Can he get surgery to get cool rubber bones? It's a lot like what people tell you about burnout. "Doctor, it hurts when I try to pick up my sword. What should I do?" "Well, don't pick up your sword anymore." Now it's a tragedy. And while the doctor isn't wrong here, part of the solution is to stop trying to pick up your sword. That's only half of the answer. Keen knowers of the name of this game can guess the other half. To wander. In Wanderstop, we get this in a lot of different forms, but my favorite is when Alta stops to drink tea. Each fruit you can use to make tea has a little description, makes your feet hurt, or makes you think of your best friend. And with each cup, we get an inner monologue from Alta as she lets her mind drift towards the journal prompt contained in the fruit description. Call it mindfulness or meditation or cognitive behavior therapy if you want. I'm just going to call it giving yourself some credit. Your subconscious self is pretty smart, and if you stop and listen to what it has to tell you, there's some real gems in there. Because once you and your subconscious self are working as a team, you can accomplish miracles. Thank you so much for watching. Like I mentioned at the top, this video was kind of an uphill battle mentally, so I'm really thankful that anyone took the time to watch it all the way to the end. If you find yourself looking for more of my stuff, I make both long and short videos about thoughtful, story-driven indie games like Wanderstop. For example, my 5 cozy games that are actually worth your time is not only about the cozy games market, but it shows off some other cool indie games that might also be up your alley. This video, however, would not be possible without my brave and generous patrons. A huge thanks to each and every one of you. Your support keeps me going on even the scariest days, and I don't think I would have got this project to the finish line without you. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there's a link to my Patreon in the description. I love my patrons so much that I try to wish them a happy birthday when I can. For example,
hello, I'm Whoosh, and I came down from space. I traveled for miles to put a smile on your face. Yo,
Jazzy Jinx,
happy birthday. You're cool. My home is Mars and the trip is long, but it's worth it to sing you this birthday song. Yo,
Jazzy Jinx,
happy birthday. You're cool.
That was awesome!
Everybody wish Jazzy Jinx a happy birthday in the comments. You're all implicated.
I'm implicated.